it's an important distinguish between management and leadership, and we talk about that quite a lot. And I would say it's the ability to stay clear and make decisions in uncertainty and give room for reflection, because it's such an important tool to internalize the learning. It's about understanding behaviors that are needed to actually make the strategy come to life, and how this is then cascaded down in the organization through the various leadership teams or the leadership team if it's a smaller organization. So it's kind of mapping that gap between the ambition and the existing behaviors and structures. That's where we usually start.
Welcome to Bloomerangas Podcast on creativity. I'm very excited to introduce you today to Heidi Rundt, who is a CEO of Hyper Island. And Hyper Island is a creative business school for continuous learners that's run in a very modern way. So I'm very excited to talk about that and to share with you everything that the school provides and its untraditional view into education, both from the format and content and delivery point of view. So welcome, Heidi. Very happy to have you with us.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be on your podcast. I'm very excited to have this conversation with you. Really happy to be here today.
Wonderful. So Hyper Island is Stockholm based, right? But the education that you provide, it's open to everyone from anywhere. So maybe for the beginning, because not everyone might know about Hyper Island, would you mind just introducing the school and tell us what you stand for and what you provide?
Absolutely. Happy to do that. And we've been around for 30 years, actually. Born here in Sweden, not in Stockholm, as so many of the companies in Sweden usually are. We are actually from a small town in the southern part of Sweden, originally, called Karlskrona. But that was 30 years ago, and today we're active on other continents as well, which means that, of course, we still have our head office here in Sweden, in Stockholm these days, but then we also operate in Central Europe, in UK. We have a team in Sao Paulo working the South American, North American market, and we have a team in Japan. But I think even more importantly, we're a creative business school that actually offers very different kinds of learning experiences for a very, very international mix of learners. So I think that that's the real beauty with Hyper Island, that we have learners from all over the world.
Right. And not just learners, but the facilitators, right? And people who teach. So that I also found that model very interesting. Do you mind also sharing how is it on the other side? Who is sharing the knowledge and how is the actual learning experience designed?
Yeah. Thank you for that question, because one thing that we've said for the 30 years we've been around is that we actually don't have any teachers, and that's quite surprising and strange, being a learning organization, but we actually don't have any teachers. So what we do instead is that we work with what we call facilitators. So we have a lot of very skilled learning designers and facilitators that are part of our team, kind of employed learning designers and facilitators. But what helps us to stay really relevant in today's changing world is that we have a vast network of speakers, of industry leaders, facilitators, learning designers, and that are coming from all different parts of the world with very, very diverse backgrounds, both from a kind of a content and experience point of view. And they, of course, help us to make sure that they bring in the relevant content, the relevant knowledge from the market today. So this network, this combination of having skilled learning designers and facilitators in-house, and then combining this with this network we have, I think that's what makes our learning journeys quite unique, and our way of working also quite unique.
Right. Because those who come to learn, then they are learning, um, they have like mentorship, isn't it? But also have the expertise of people who are out there actually doing things, which is the purpose of continuous education and advancement, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Because we know that what might be relevant today is probably not relevant tomorrow, and and one of our core values is actually also to make sure that we as Hyper Island stay real world ready, but also that our learners are real world ready, because they come to us to understand what are the skills and competencies and mindset and the knowledge they need to be relevant in the future. So we have to make sure that we're always future facing and bringing in the content actually from the industry, from the market, from where things are happening right now.
Right. Wonderful. Love that. And most of the courses are delivered online, although you have some programs that have some real life interaction, right? So it's kind of hybrid learning. Do you mind sharing more about that, and what are the benefits for people to mix the hybrid learning and make the best of online and real life?
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting that we come from a learning methodology that very much was based on the interaction in the room, that ensuring that we have people gathered in the same room that will spark meaningful conversations, peer-to-peer learning, and to help bring in different perspectives, because we think that's really important to be able to internalize also the learnings. But this was 30 years ago, and a lot has changed over the years. And one of the things that we really found useful has been to challenge our own methodology and way of thinking. And of course, the fact that we went through the pandemic a few years ago helped us to accelerate that, which means that, of course, we still have traditional, I would say, when I talk about Hyper Island, but we still have on-site learning moments, and we offer vocational education here in Sweden that's fully on-site. But if we look at other formats, we bring students together in an online format, which means that we can enable in an easy way people to come together from all different parts of the world in a learning environment that's still highly interactive, which means that we can still allow the learners to have meaningful conversations, to learn from each other, to broaden their network, to listen to different perspectives, to be challenged and to challenge. But that requires, of course, a learning design that enables people to do that in an online setting, whether it's a shorter online course for 6 weeks, or if it's a long journey of 1.5 years. It still boils down to how do we design that learning journey and those interactions.
Right. And one of the master's program that you have, right? It has a very interesting setup that maybe you might don't wouldn't mind sharing, where how it's structured, right? And how it helps for people to bond because of it.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, because I think that's been one of the really interesting moments for us when we've challenged ourselves. We have offered master's programs. It's a Masters of Arts program for 15 years, more or less, in collaboration with TSED University, and traditionally it was an on-site program that we offered in Singapore, in the UK, and here in Stockholm. But asking ourselves, how can we actually enable more people from various parts of life and various parts of the world to actually join this type of learning experience, we started to prototype moving this program to a more or less fully online learning journey, which means that the students are in a highly interactive way learning with us online for 1.5 years. And it means that in this learning journey, students will meet people from US and from Japan in the same online classroom, week on week. Then we do fly the students into Stockholm for a first week of that full learning journey, where they meet up during a week that we call a Hyper Island Way Week, and it's a very intensive week where students build very strong relationships. And I think this is the cornerstone of our methodology, that we use our methodology to create a very tight group of learners, and then they go through this learning journey online for 1.5 years. And I think it's building that glue in the beginning. It enables the students to show up for each other. So even our American learners get up in the middle of the night to take part of the learning experience. It's really beautiful to see.
Right. So a Masters of Arts program, you would think it might be about hands-on creative disciplines, but I guess it's not if it's delivered online. What is the actual topic of this program that can work in
Yeah.
this format?
Exactly. So, our Masters of Arts, we have actually just redesigned it this year. So we've launched a new enhanced version of the old one that we've been running for 12 years. But we felt that with everything changing in the world, it's time for us to change as well. So it used to be called Digital Management. And now we are running a program that's much more focused on digital strategy and of course management as well, with a lot of components related to AI. So it means that it's very hands-on still. We need to have that hands-on element, and that means that we might have organizations coming in with a real life brief, so a challenge that they sit on, that they want our students to actually solve during that learning journey, which means that the students need to, in an online environment, work with various different organizations and their real life problems. And that means that they also need to, yeah. So it's a very different type of journey.
Hi, my name is Aglia. Facilitators are these sort of strange breed of people, very creative, very great at socializing, in listening, right? In helping others hear themselves better. They are like mirrors for the others, where the other people are able to see themselves, understand themselves better. So I've been running workshops for a very long time, I think since 2001, and I've been doing that all over the world. Lately, I've been doing them online, since it's also another way to share with the world in a slightly easier format without needing to move. So I really assembled everything that I've learned in running workshops for brand development, self-crystallization, team building, and it's a really condensed course of all the tips that you can take on board. And of course, the qualities that a facilitator needs to develop, how to hold the space, and to help others become best at what they do. So this course is online, right? It's self-paced. It also has one-on-one mentorship session. So I hope you'll consider us. If you have any questions, of course, drop us an email and I'll be there and my colleagues to help you get on board. You mentioned before that as creatives, right, because of AI, we need to move more from actually doing the work to learning how to lead the work while using AI as one of those tools that would do the heavy lifting for some things that it can do the heavy lifting, right? So this mindset, right, that needs to shift for professionals, how what is included in making that shift, and what how do you see that as a creative business school in doing that?
Yeah, and I think I often get the question that do we see AI as a threat or a possibility? And I think our point of view as an organization is that we definitely see AI as a possibility, but we also believe that the human capabilities are even more important in today's world, because uh, we see that AI enables us humans, and if you talk about the creative space, to do work that we had to do in the past. And then the question is, how do we design, from a human perspective, how do we design organizations where an agent is part of the work that we actually do, and where in that organization will the human capabilities truly play an important part? And we think that the capabilities such as uh, creative thinking, connecting the human behavior to design, for example, that will be a very important part of the creative work. Um, to bring in the strategic thinking to how we utilize different agents is really important, but also that we continue to question. So analytical thinking is another extremely important
Right, that's a big one.
tool. Yeah.
Right. So is that these are the skills then you are teaching your students, right? How to go about that. What is in
Yeah.
does it take to kind of teach creative thinking? How does that practically come through in a learning experience?
Mm. I think that goes very much actually back to what I would say is our DNA, which we build so much of the learning journeys on. And I almost see it like a path where, if I look at our methodology, we recognize that different kind of technical advancements is one of the reasons why we actually are here as Hyper Island. But then the question is, how do we utilize, for example, now in the moment we are now, AI when it comes to making some kind of change, whether it's in critical thinking, for example. And one of the ways that we do it is to make sure that we design a learning journey where we enable the journey to bring in different perspectives. So it's a challenger mindset as well. With different perspectives, we are able to also raise the bar on openness and trust, and how do we actually create teams that are functioning in a much more efficient way. But for that to happen, we also know that we need to have a quite high degree of self leadership and leadership. So I think to teach creative thinking, it goes back to how we design that learning journey of ensuring different perspectives, of ensuring that there's a challenger mindset, of ensuring that we have a high degree of self leadership and understanding what it means, and then having really efficient teams.
Wonderful. Yeah, I think that's definitely needed for future leaders, right? For anyone who is going to be using AI tools to produce certain outcomes, right? So
Mm.
very interesting. And do you use any AI tools while actually teaching, to kind of facilitate the actual learning experiences?
Yeah, we are quite tech agnostic, which means that we always we want to use the tools that the industry is using as well, which means we prototype with a lot of various tools. It can be everything from Miro to Lovable, and how can we utilize these various tools to improve the learning journey. So it's also challenging ourselves as a learning provider in constantly looking at what is relevant in the market. And of course, ChatGPT and Claude and everything else, but to make sure that we stay really relevant as well.
So, as an organization that's providing continuous education, I guess you also attract professionals who would want to make a transition from management to leadership, right? What are the skills that are needed for that to emerge within an individual, right? And for that to make that brave move to kind of leading a team rather than just taking care of operations.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's an important distinguish between management and leadership, and we talk about that quite a lot. And I would say it's the ability to stay clear and make decisions in uncertainty. I think that's something that people in leadership positions will have to be able to face on a day-to-day basis. I think another important skill set to have to be able to be a successful leader in today's highly changing world is to have strong facilitation, collaboration, and system thinking capabilities. And I think another thing as well is to have the ability to building capability in an organization and really enable learning. We see a lot of organizations talking about lifelong learning, but how do you I think it comes from the leaders. They have to be able to enable that continuous learning in organizations. So these are some of the skills I see as crucial for leaders to step from being a manager, of an operational manager, to actually leading.
Right. And I can very much resonate just from organization I worked with in the past is that yes, that sort of enablement needs to be within the environment, right? For people to learn and advance. It has to be part of the company's culture.
Yeah.
So on the other side of providing learning experiences, you also work with companies, right? To kind of get that perspective and help them, I guess, move the needle forward. So, and that means working with executives across industries. What biggest challenges or resistances to the shifts that are needed to happen these days are you seeing in this current time of change?
Yeah, that's such a good question. Yeah, we indeed we work with a lot of larger organizations on their various transformations, whether it's leadership or innovation. But of course, a question that we receive very often these days is about the AI transformation. So it's so many organizations today, they know that they have to undergo a true AI transformation. It can not only be allowing the workforce to use ChatGPT. That is not the AI transformation, and I think many organizations are starting to realize that. So. I think what they are missing is support in understanding the human side of that AI transformation. So, what behaviors, what type of culture, and what leadership is needed to truly transform the operating models, the business model, the ways of working in an organization. And that also then connects to the actual ways of working. How do we collaborate? To ensure that we actually push for the AI transformation? How do we make decisions? And also the need to turn these insights once you've found a recipe, but how do we actually turn these insights into sustained behavioral change? It's not an easy task for organizations today.
Yes, I can imagine any behavior is difficult to change, right? And this one
Yeah.
in particular with AI, it requires a bit of thinking in general, how to kind of put a good use to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely, and there's also a lot of resistance. So how do we work with that resistance? So it requires both a lot of thinking and a lot of courage and change management.
True. I guess these are the things that are required in any kind of change, right? Whenever that happens, when we go as humanity through sort of these waves that take us to new horizons. So I guess this one is
Yeah,
one of those kind, the bigger wave we need to catch. Right.
for sure.
So we talked about the facilitation in your learning experiences, which I found super interesting. Um, can you maybe share a bit more on the distinction between facilitators and the experts from the industry that are kind of sharing their knowledge during a learning experience? What's the role of facilitation, and how are those people different in terms of skill set?
Yeah, that's a good question because I think something I've realized, I've been at Hyper Island for 9 years, and today I take the role as a facilitator as a quite given, but I also see that it's not that common outside of our
It's
Hyper
not. I
Island
can confirm
universe.
that.
No. Yeah. And I have to say that the facilitators, they truly play a central role, and the reason why is because they hold the whole learning process rather than just delivering content. And I think content is also important, but it's this balance, because if we just feed our learners lots of content, how much of that will truly change the way we behave, how much of that will have a lasting impact. So what the facilitators do is that they create conditions for participation, for reflection, and for engagement, and they support the learners during this journey to turn those insights they gathered during the learning journey into actual actions, so change in behaviors after the learning journey. So I think they are therefore essential. And of course we need to fill it with content, but without this skilled facilitator, it will not have the impact we might be after.
Wonderful, love that. And yes, indeed, this is because I talk with so many leaders from around the world who are leading educational institutions. And the facilitation is definitely not so. I think it happens in one way or another, but not in such a profound way as you've described. So
Yeah, and I think what I see is that in some people, they have a natural ability to be skilled facilitators, but it's a true skill to be able to do that. And for others, it comes from hours and hours of actual training.
right. And if you are an
So
expert, subject matter expert, you might not necessarily be a good facilitator. So that's why sometimes we have these professors in formal education who are great, but kind of the absent-minded professors. But they are a bit disconnected from how to make things happen in life.
yeah,
So of course
exactly.
we all love those professors, but we need this another balancing act sort of person. Yeah. So it's great that you merge
Yeah.
the two in the way you deliver education.
Mm.
Right. So Hyper
Yeah.
Island was also founded in Sweden, right? And if we are looking at
Mm.
education from like international perspective, the Scandinavian way, maybe it's more for K-12 education, but still is regarded very highly, and that it has this unique way of teaching children, right? Um, in Hyper Island, is there anything that you integrate as well in adult continuing education? That's sort of, we could say, is the Swedish way, and if so, what is that Swedish way that the rest of the world could also learn from.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's so interesting when you brought in that connection with K to 12, because uh, I have two kids of my own, and I see some elements of their education being replicated in our education, even if we talk about adult education. And two easy things to mention is to make sure that we always give room for reflection. Like my kids are doing it at school. We force our force adult learners to also give room for reflection, because it's such an important tool to internalize the learning. And the other thing that I think we don't actually talk so much about the Hyper Island, but it is always there. It's also like a playfulness in the learning moment. Um, but actually, I also wanted to mention that these are I would say two quite typical elements of the Nordic system, but we have also based our methodology on a learning framework called Understanding Groups and Leaders, which was developed for the military forces here in Sweden. And a lot of that, it has been embedded into Hyper Island's methodology over the 30 years. And it kind of means that we focus a lot on the trust building I mentioned, on collaboration, and on shared responsibility, which I think is quite common for the Nordic culture in general.
Right, and is the foundational glue in every organization, right?
Yeah,
Wonderful.
exactly.
So if since you are a creative business school, right, that I guess the things that are being merged is the creativity and the business thinking, the entrepreneurial aspects of things within the structure of your learning, right? How much space is given for creativity to emerge? Not necessarily creative thinking, which I understand is formed through exposure to different perspectives, but that creativity from the sense of sparking ideas within people and maybe even jump-starting ventures, right? Whether it's within the company or independent ventures, how is that weaved in, let's say, time or space for entrepreneurship within the courses that you are delivering?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I think it's a part of our DNA also when it comes to the methodology. Because if we look at how Hyper was like in the beginning of Hyper journey, a lot of creative agencies in Sweden today are actually born out of Hyper Island, with Hyper Island alumni uh, starting these agencies already when they were studying, or straight after. So I think it sits so it's so embedded in our DNA. And the fact that we do a lot of prototyping, both internally as an organization, but also in our learning journeys, and that we are so close to real world cases and business challenges, also makes our learners into very entrepreneurial learners. But also, of course, we have to be very entrepreneurial ourselves
Yeah.
to make sure that we
Lead
keep
by
up.
example.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you are, from everything I've been hearing of how the school has transformed. It's definitely within you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it has to be in a part of our DNA. And I think we also attract people who are either wanting to become more entrepreneurial, or very curious about that type of entrepreneurship or entrepreneurship.
Right, and I think it's very easy to feel when the school has that, when you talk with the school's leadership, because that entrepreneurial spirit is very easy to feel, you know. It's that sort of certain flavor that the school has then. And then, of course, based on that, then you attract certain students who are looking
Mm,
for it, if you have that within your DNA, as you say.
yeah.
Wonderful. Um, so, based on how you've been observing how adults change, on what motivates people, what triggers them to take action, what do you think are those integral components of effective education that have to be in place, right, for a school to be relevant or for a course to be relevant, right? Apart from, of course, teaching what is needed in terms of content, right? But that, if we put that aside, is there anything that you'd say is the future of creative education that needs to be there if it is to bloom?
Mm. Oi, that's a big question. First of all, I think that education in general will probably see a huge transformation in the future. I think traditional education needs to be challenged. And I think we need to be aware of the need to shift from information delivery to capability building, because you can't. I think we cannot fool ourselves to think that you learn and you go through a program and then you're done, then you're ready for the
Right.
world. You will
No.
not be.
In
so
that
so
way,
I,
you don't need to go to a program. You can just listen to a YouTube course, you know?
yeah,
That's how we
exactly.
work.
Yeah, so I think it's that, and I think it's also about making sure that we actually connect to real world challenges, as I've been mentioning, because I think to live in past models to try to make sense of the future. I don't believe in that model. I think we have to challenge ourselves with the current challenges we see in the world to train our muscle on future thinking. Um, so it's about putting more effort on focusing on adaptability and creativity and collaboration in general. So I think that's what I believe will make us stay relevant also in the future.
Thank you so much for watching this talk so far. I hope you're enjoying it. I also wanted to remind you that we also publish Design Rewinds, which are deep dives into ideas that have shaped design. So these are here to expand our horizons, to get inspired, and hopefully get new ideas for our own work. So please subscribe, and you'll get the link in the comments below. I'll see you there.
And how about organizations for those, with the remote work or hybrid work, and again, this access to global workforce? What do you think are the elements that should be within organization for it to be modern and future oriented and Gen Z, attractive, if that's possible at all?
Yes, exactly. I love that question. It's something that we we get a lot from the organizations that we work with, because of course work life is changing dramatically. I know a lot of organizations are calling back their coworkers to a more traditional, 5 days a week at the office type of
Yes,
work.
there is that
Um,
trend as well. Yeah.
there's definitely that trend, and that's a challenge in itself. And the other thing we of course see as well is these various generations at the workplace bringing in very different challenges again. So I think here it comes very much down to, sorry to say, the leadership capabilities, and but also making sure that organizations foster a culture where everybody understands it is not only about the leader serving all the answers, because that will not be the case. The leader cannot sit with all the answers, but that self leadership is also very important. But it needs to come from the management. It needs to come from how do we work with our culture? How do we work with change management? Because so much has to do with managing this uncertainty that we are all in, and building the capabilities for both individuals and leaders.
So when you come into organization to help them with let's say, a certain transformation on the culture side, is that how you start? Then talking to the leaders and seeing where things can be loosened up or tightened up on that front, right? To create the environment for the future.
Yeah, that's very much where we usually start, because we realize that it's about understanding the strategy. It's about understanding behaviors that are needed to actually make the strategy come to life, and how this is then cascaded down in the organization through the various leadership teams, or the leadership team if it's a smaller organization. So it's kind of mapping that gap between the ambition and the existing behaviors and structures. That's
Right,
where we
love
usually
that.
start.
Very well said. Love that.
Mm.
Yes, and creating, I guess, a grounded starting point from which to move forward, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. I think so, because then it's about making sure that there is a culture that's built that allows for both control, but at the same time, certainty, and has a low tolerance for experimentation. Sorry, high tolerance for experimentation. That you can balance these polarities in one organization.
Yeah, makes total sense. So, do you think, like, at the moment, the education model that you have at Hyper Island is kind of there already in terms of being polished up, in terms of foundation, or there are things that you would love to add on based on what you see AI can provide?
Yeah, I think the day I will say that now it's all done and it's polished and it's beautiful, then it's my time to leave.
That's a good one. Love that.
Yeah, yeah, I love the culture we have of like continuously looking at something and asking ourselves, how can we make this even better? So I hope I will never
There's
say yes,
always a room for
it's
improvement.
now done.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, as the CEO of Hyper Island, what is the things that you love the most and you kind of find the most challenging, or running this online school? We can say primarily now it's online, right?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, there are a lot of challenges. I actually start with one that's not so maybe it's not so present for me anymore. But I have to say that when I joined Hyper Island, my first year was really difficult, and this is 9 years ago. But the way we look at leadership, the way we look at uncertainty, prototyping, experimenting is very, very different from what I'm used to. So I was extremely challenged as a leader in the beginning to immerse myself in our methodology. Now I love it. I'm challenged every single day, and I think that's the right way to go. I need to be challenged as a leader. We need to bring our various perspectives together. So I love that, that it continues to be that type of organization. I also love it that we've managed to gather so many extremely talented people together. I really admire my colleagues I work with. They are so smart. So it's a wonderful environment, but it's also challenging because we have many different cultures coming together. We work remotely a lot. So how do we create our rituals and routines and ways of being and showing up for each other that strengthens our culture even when we go through a transformation as an organization? So I think that's also a challenge that we talk about
Right.
weekly.
That's very much the biggest challenge for remote
Yeah,
organizations, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, how do you usually address that? Like real life get togethers from time to time, or hangouts online? Share tips wise for others
Yeah, we
remotely?
Yeah, we do a lot of different things. So we we start our week together. We have a session every Monday, almost throughout the full year. We might take a break during Christmas, but we start our week together just to see each other on the screen, see each other's faces, even if somebody's eating their breakfast or another one is picking up their kids. But we kind of we see each other. That's one moment. And then we also use our own methodology a lot. So how do we come together? We have, for example, something we call high monthly every month, where we take 2 hours and come together online. Our head of methodology and culture is facilitating that session, and we take time to use our own tools and our own methodology and give room for reflection. And I think this fosters connection and culture. Yeah. So I think we have to eat our own medicine.
Right. And that's, I guess, what drives also constant improvement, right? Because if you just create, have it there, and don't review it, so it's also gonna die out at some point, right?
Absolutely. That's the thing. And we have to constantly look at what we do and use it and say, how do we improve this? And how do we make it even more meaningful?
Right. Love that. Well, thank you so much, Heidi, for such a wonderful conversation. It's very exciting to see that creative business schools that are online driven and can unite and bring together the whole world, and for the sake of creativity and entrepreneurship. So very much happy to see that happening, and I wish all the best for Hyper Island as you grow and continue your mission.
Thank you so much. And thank you for the brilliant questions. I love the challenge.
Thank you.